We all know the story of the Wizard of Oz, right? It feels like it's just always been there, a part of growing up, long before we ever heard phrases like gold standard or economic panic.
I mean, you remember it. Maybe it was on a beat-up VHS tape, or maybe the teacher wheeled in that TV cart on a rainy school day. It was just this simple fairy tale about a girl, her dog, a scarecrow, and finding your way home. That's the story we all got.
But here's the thing. What if the story L. Frank Baum was actually writing wasn't a fairy tale at all? Because when he wrote about Dorothy's tornado, his own country was being ripped apart by a very different kind of storm. One of the worst financial crises in American history. Okay, let's get into it.
So to really understand Oz, you have to understand the world Baum was living in. We're talking about 1890s America, a country totally obsessed and kind of haunted by two things, gold and silver.
So you've got these two very different storms. On one hand, you have the Oz we know, courage, friendship, home, all that good stuff. But on the other hand, you have the brutal reality of Baum's time. Banks collapsing, railroads going broke, and farmers just watching their lives get buried under a mountain of debt.
The real monster in this story was something called deflation. Basically, it's when money gets heavier. So the price you could get for your crops kept falling, but the loan you took out for your farm, that stayed exactly the same. Imagine borrowing money when wheat is $1 a bushel, but when it's time to pay up, it's only 50 cents. You suddenly have to grow twice as much just to stay afloat. It was an economic force that was literally tearing the country apart.
And once you understand that world, well, all the weird, random symbols in Oz suddenly stop looking so random. They start to look like a secret code, a map, to what an entire generation of people was terrified of.
Okay, so here it is, the one detail that unlocks the entire thing, the one everyone forgets. In the original book from 1900, Dorothy is not wearing ruby slippers. She's wearing silver shoes. Let that sink in. Silver shoes walking on a road made of gold. The biggest political fight of the 1890s was whether the US should only be on the gold standard or if adding silver, making more money available, could save the economy. This isn't subtext. It's the whole dang stage.
And who is walking this road of gold and silver? Dorothy. She's not some princess. She's just a normal kid from Kansas. You know, a place that a lot of people on the East Coast probably thought of as just flat and empty. For millions of regular Americans at the time, she wasn't just some character. She was them.
So the first person she meets is the Scarecrow, right? And he's totally convinced he has no brain. As the source material puts it, everyone in Oz treats him like he has no brain. That's exactly how East Coast elites talked about Midwestern farmers. He's clumsy, easily knocked over, and everyone makes fun of him.
It's this perfect, biting commentary on how city folks saw farmers as simple-minded, not smart enough to get economics. But who comes up with all the best ideas in the story? The Scarecrow. Turns out he doesn't need a brain from a wizard. He just needs a world that will stop telling him he's an idiot.
Then they find the Tin Woodman, and wow, this is where the allegory gets really dark. He's literally a man who's been so overworked that he's been replaced piece by piece with metal. And when they find him, he's just frozen, forgotten in the forest. I mean, what a perfect symbol for the factory worker of the 1890s, who is often treated as just another part of the machine. He's rusted solid, unable to work, and totally abandoned. The tragedy isn't that he lacks a heart, it's that the industrial system that created him is completely heartless.
And finally, you've got the Cowardly Lion. All roar, but when it comes time to actually do something, he freezes. A lot of historians think he's a direct shot at William Jennings Bryan, this famous politician who gave these thundering speeches against the gold standard, but in the end, lost the fight. All talk, no bite. And it just keeps going. The entire world is part of the code. The Emerald City? It's not really green. Everyone is just forced to wear green-tinted glasses, a pretty sharp critique of paper money making a place seem wealthier than it is. The wizard? A total fraud, just a guy behind a curtain. And the witches? They're the big, scary, oppressive forces of the banks and monopolies.
So at this point, you're probably thinking, okay, if this is all so obvious, why isn't this what we learn as kids? Well, that's the interesting part. This sharp political story got tamed.
It really started with the 1939 movie, and it was for a super simple reason. Technicolor. Silver shoes just looked kind of gray and dull on film. But ruby red? That popped. It was a great choice for the movie, visually. But symbolically, it was like surgery. With that one little change, the story's clearest, most direct connection to the politics of its time was just snipped away.
Then the story went to school, and it got boiled down into the simple, safe fable. The message became about believing in yourself and friendship and home. The version of Oz we all learned was basically a spiritual sedative, not the political firebomb it started out as.
And this is the absolute key. When you tame the story like that, the blame shifts. It stops being about a rigged system, a road built for someone else's profit, and it becomes a story about you. It's about your personal lack of courage or your lack of a brain. The responsibility just slides right off the wizard and lands squarely on Dorothy.
But don't make the mistake of thinking this is all just a dusty old history lesson. You could argue this allegory is actually more relevant today than it was 100 years ago. Just look at these parallels. The yellow brick road? Today, it's paved with student loans and credit scores. These paths we're all told we have to follow to succeed. The Emerald City? That's the perfectly curated world of our Instagram feeds. The Tin Woodman is the gig economy driver, an actual person treated like a cog in an app. And the wizard? Well, he's probably on a keynote stage wearing a black turtleneck.
Yeah, our modern wizards are the tech founders and influencers and financial gurus. They build these spectacular cities out of pixels and promises, telling us they're empowering us, all while we walk down the roads that they built and wear the digital glasses that they provide. It's the same old trick, just with better Wi-Fi. And that's exactly why this story still has such a powerful sting. It's not just about history. It's about learning to see the machinery that runs our own world, right now.
Because if you really think about it, Dorothy's most heroic moment isn't melting a witch, it's pulling back that curtain. Her real superpower isn't magic, it's exposing the fraud. She proves to an entire city that the great and powerful Oz is just a small man with a microphone, and that all the awe and fear he created can be broken in an instant.
So, once you see this pattern in Oz, you start seeing it everywhere. The story becomes this incredible tool, a lens to look at our own lives. And it leaves you with this final, nagging question that changes a story you thought you knew inside and out. What if this was never just about a girl and her dog?